Hello, I'm Brian Pruitt, and I am the founder of Power of Dad. You're about to watch our documentary, Fatherlessness The American Epidemic. As you watch this, what you're going to realize is that there are over 24 million fatherless kids in America. And the other issue is that we had a generation of men grow up without fathers who are now required to be what they may not have ever had, which is a dad. And so we need a set of tools in order to not make the same mistakes that our fathers did. That's why we made this documentary, to try to start a conversation and to bring some healing. So as you watch this, be prepared to be encouraged, be prepared to be inspired, and be prepared to take the tools that you get here and get ready to go change the world. Let's watch Fatherlessness, the American Epidemic.
Dad, I need you. Dad, I forgive you.
Dad, I miss you.
Dad, where are you?
Daddy, I love you.
My great-grandfather, his name was Blue. And Blue, my family called him Blue simply because he would beat his wife until she would turn black and blue. He would beat her until she would fall to the floor in convulsions. And after he was done beating her, he would begin to beat his eldest son. His eldest son's name was David. David was my grandfather. And my grandfather David made a promise to himself as a young man. He said, when I grow up, I'll never be like that man. I'll never be like my father. And David grew up and he met a beautiful young woman by the name of Rose. Rose was my grandmother. Rose just wanted to be loved. But my grandfather, instead of walking in a different direction as his father did, he walked in the same direction. He beat his wife. My grandmother moved on and she met another man by the name of Caesar, who she just wanted to be loved by. But lo and behold, she ran into another man who was going to mistreat her and beat her as well. When my grandmother took my father, his brothers and sisters, she escaped the situation and she moved to the city of Detroit. When she got there, she thought life was going to be fine. But that day, Caesar found her. He hunted her down like a dog. And when he found her that day, he showed up with a shotgun. My father, his brothers and sisters ran into the bathroom and they hid that day. And in that bathroom, my father, he clutched the mouths of his brothers and sisters because he was afraid that if they made a peep, a sound, or a murmur, that the man they should have been able to call dad or hero just might make a poor choice and come and take the life of his own children. On the other side of the bathroom door, they heard a sound that would change my family's life forever. It was the sound of a gun going off, the sound of my grandmother's body hitting the floor, and the sound of Caesar walking out of the house. My father, his brothers and sisters came out of the bathroom to find their mother murdered. And they began to clean the mess up. And as they cleaned the mess up themselves, as my father wiped his mother's blood from the floor, he made a promise to himself. He said, I will never be like that man. But when he grew up, he had an opportunity, he had a choice. His choice was to be a different person or to walk in the same footsteps as those men. When my dad grew up, he met a beautiful young woman. He met my mother. And instead of walking a different path than the men before him, my father walked in the same footsteps. He made poor choices when it came to drugs and alcohol. He made poor choices when it came to physical abuse. My father missed my graduation in high school. My father missed the day that I got married to this beautiful woman. My father missed the birth of my two children. My father missed when I became an All-American running back and the second leading rusher in the nation. My father missed it all.
My dad was around until I was 13, but before then he got out of prison when I was 5, and he was in and out ever since then. 13 came and he left to Florida, and I hadn't seen him until I was 18.
Well, I grew up with a father off and on. I grew up from, I think it was 1 to about 14 with my father being in the home. With hands off, sort of. Only time that he really was there was for disciplinary reasons. Other than that, he participated in nothing. My mother did everything. After 13 and 14, he left.
Growing up without a father was difficult. It was very difficult for me. Many challenges. Living with just my mom, single mom. Hard times. A lot of pain inside, and I didn't necessarily know how to deal with.
By the time I reached 13, I was kind of figuring out, okay, I have to kind of father myself, because my mother also wasn't in the picture either. So it was like I was being my own mother and my own father, and it was like it's kind of tough because I didn't get to be 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So I missed out on a lot of things.
But always young for my father. I always wanted to be like my father, but he wasn't there. But as I grew older, so when I turned 18, by that time I got like 4 kids, 3 or 4 children myself. 7 twins, girls, another daughter, and 2 boys. They're all by different people.
There was no relationship. I mean, I wanted one. I can't really explain it. I mean, there was no relationship between us. He was distant. He had his own family. We had our own lives. Our mom tried so hard to bring him in, but he didn't. He didn't respond.
As a young woman, not having my father around, I looked at guys in a completely different light. I looked at women in a different light. It was just, to me, guys were wham bam, thank you ma'am kind of people. You know, we just want to get what we can get. We're gonna leave. You might end up pregnant if you do. Oh well. Women, I looked at like, you got to do a better job at raising your son, because this is what you're bringing up. People who break people.
The impact of my dad's actions, it wasn't really like, my mother never said anything negative about him, but she knew that it was hurting me. So she kind of basically let me learn on my own about my dad because of the fact of how negative he was towards me, how negative because of their relationship, how bad it was when they were together. My mother just basically let me learn him. And when I did learn him, I realized that it wasn't the guy I wanted to be with.
And then one day, we was in Jackson, and we was converting JMO over to a level 2. And this guy walked up on me. He said, "What's up?" I said, "What's up?" He said, "You know who I am?" I said, "No." He said, "I'm your son, man." I think that's probably one of the saddest days of my life, though. Because his mother had told him, after he called his case, now you're where you want to be with your father. Right? I think that might be one of the saddest days in my life. To this day, he kind of bothered me. I don't talk to him like I'm supposed to. He write me, his mother just passed. He did that kind of hard, so the administration called me and let me talk to him. Our relationship is probably like me and my father's was. Now I love my father because I understood he only told me what he knew, and he didn't know nothing. No. But the saddest thing ever happened when he came. You know, because I always think I failed him. To this day, I think that. You know, we don't have the kind of relationship that I want to have because he resent me now. You know, he wasn't there for me. And what he used to always tell me when he used to be in the room with me, he used to say, out of everything we could have ever did in the world, all you had to do was be there for me. You know, you didn't have to buy me a whole bunch of stuff, give me a whole bunch of stuff. See, one nobody there, so all the examples I had was, you was this, You was a gangster. My daddy is nothing never good. So I grew up trying to be like you.
I'm calling forth the most important man in the game. It's you, the fathers of our country. 72% of America says fatherlessness is the greatest social issue of our time. Did you have a father in your home?
Well, growing up, not really. My parents divorced when I was 7 years old, and so no, not really.
I absolutely did.
Yes, I grew up, but my father and mother divorced when I was 6. So then I lived with my mom for the rest of that.
I sure did.
Most of the time, no.
Yes, I did.
Yes, I did.
Just to answer the question, I grew up in Saginaw, like in the township in the corner center of McCarty. And, my dad was there for the first 13 years of my life.
No, I did not.
Yes. Unfortunately not. I never knew my father. As I got older, I'm 30 years old now, and when I was about 13, 14, I got a little curious, asked Mom about it, and she didn't know him either.
Yes, sir. Yes, I did.
No, I did not.
How would you rate the relationship you've had with your dad since then on a scale of 1 to 10?
Probably like 5 or so, because I know him, but I know most of things like from my mom.
1. I mean, it was not a very good. I mean, I was terrified of my dad. It was a really bad divorce. So, and we're not close right now. So.
And 10's the highest, I'm assuming?
Yes, ma'am.
10. He was wonderful.
Okay.
And still is at 89.
With my father, a 0. He's deceased. But with my stepfather, I'd say about a 2 because he lives out of state.
I had to say go over 10 and give it a 12.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
About a 5.
About a 5. Okay. Is there any particular reason why?
I don't know. It's not like he's a bad dad. It's
just a
it's
5.
not very close, just a father.
Okay.
I got to know him later in life, so he passed away several months ago, and at that time I would really rate our relationship maybe around a 7.
I would rate the relationship probably a 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he was, he was always there, but he was the kind of dad that didn't say anything. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
A 10.
A 10.
Yes,
all right.
yes.
All right.
My father been here all my life. It wasn't perfect. We had our ups and downs, but that's love, Some things I should have listened to, but I didn't. But now I see he was right.
All right.
I make it a 12 because my father is 93 years old today, and my mom is 88 down in Philadelphia, Mississippi. And I loved them, and they loved me.
I'm not sure what the criteria is.
Okay, no criteria, but just based on...
He paid the bills, and I had a roof and food, so I guess 10.
Okay.
He only beat me once.
Yeah, never had a father. Now that I'm getting older, I'm kind of over it. It is what it is. But I did have a stepdad for about 8 years, and that was the closest thing I ever had a father. He's good to me. He's good to my mother, but they're divorced now. So now I'm a father. I'm a father of 3. I have 2 boys and a baby girl, and I just try to be everything, that I didn't have for them.
Well, my dad left me when I was 4.5 years old.
Okay.
And I really, never did know him or anything like that. I got curious, and later on in life, she was able to track down the number, and unfortunately, I did call him, and he told me that he didn't want nothing to do with me, with my mom, with anybody, that he's dead to all of the family and wanted to be left alone, and click. That was it.
I just recently had one of my proudest moments when my son graduated from high school. I expected it, but just the feeling, it was like, kind of overwhelming. I didn't want to cry, just kind of, I sat there, held my head up so them tears wouldn't roll down, But it was good, and then just my kids being born and stuff like that,
I got to say, me personally, that was my proudest moment to this point right now, to actually just see the birth of my daughter. I was right there in the
stuff like that. So
that's my proudest moment right there.
I just enjoy just watching my kids smile and laugh and
I enjoy fatherhood. I really do.
There's a lot of great moments. You look at me like, man, I can just look at my son some night Like this morning, I went in there, you know, I left early this morning, I just went in there, he got the cover all over him, you know. I just, you know, went in there, you know, just...
Sometimes you catch yourself just staring at the kids.
Yeah, you know, just look at him, you know. And, you know, that's just great. You know, I couldn't see myself, really couldn't see myself without him, so.
Raising two boys by myself is difficult because I can't give them certain things that a man, that their father, should be able to provide for them, you know, the kind of structure, the sacrifices that I make, and I make some deep sacrifices to make sure that I can provide for my sons. Sometimes I feel like I want to give up, I want to run. It seems like that would be so easy for me to do. He did it. Why should I stick around? Why should I continue to raise two boys by myself and struggle the way I do? Not just financially, emotionally as well. You know, the things that I go through with my sons are difficult. Attitudes, distrust in them, you know, and how they take out their frustration on me by not having a father. That's the most difficult part. They may not come out and say it, but I see it every day. And I try my best to say that today is going to be a better day, but sometimes it gets worse and worse. I wouldn't want to do this again. I would not honestly want to do this again, ever. You know, I have some sad days. I have more sad days than more happy days. I want to do so much for them, and I want to see them go places, but I need some help. You know, and I have yet. Their father, as far as the relationship with their father, there was none. He stepped off while I was pregnant and decided to start a new family somewhere else. Children he did not raise, he raised those. He married a woman who already had children, but he forgot he left two seeds behind. And from a distance, you know, we're not in the same town, we're not in the same state, even when we were. He was not present, he was not active in no kind of way in their life. And he's passed now. He died. Passed mean a lot of things. We're going to say he died. He did die of sickness. But before he died, you know, he never did make peace with his sons.
We went down to Atlanta, Georgia, me and my twin brother. First time I seen him, he wanted a hug. I mean, come on, man. We don't know you like that. And went to the living room, tried to make small talk. You want to watch TV or you want something to eat? No, we don't want none of that. We want to talk to you and find out why you wasn't there, why you weren't part of our lives.
This is what I want for them. To be able to be a better man. Be a man. Not just a better man, because I don't know, I can't say nothing really good about him. I want them to be better than their father.
When my son graduated, my father went there for our graduation and stuff like that, and I just, that right there made me think, man, you know, my father wasn't here. You know, I don't get angry at it. It's just the thought that, you know, I wouldn't have missed this for the world. I can't see how some fathers do miss it and don't be doing nothing though. Some fathers would be in the same city. We got this one customer say his father lived in the same city as him. He was a basketball star in the city, played his high school career. His daddy never once came to see him in a game. He got a scholarship to go to school for basketball. His dad never once came to see him. They lived in the same city. He said he can't understand it. He's a good father right now today. He's married with two boys, and you know they come here. He's a good father, but he said he just can't understand it. Sometimes I can't see how fathers do that to their kids. Even if you and the lady or the wife or the whatever is not together, yeah, your baby mama. I mean, it still shouldn't make you not want a relationship with your seed. I just can't understand it sometimes.
But I have heard my father say that though. We sit here sometimes. My father would verbally express his feelings as far as, you know, he regret for not being there. You know, he would say these type of things. You know, I missed out on the moments. I hate that I wasn't there. You know, stuff like this. So, you know, he have expressed it to us. One client of mine, this happened years ago. His mother had just recently passed. And we was in here, I was talking to him, I was cutting his hair, and he was talking about how he didn't like his father. I mean, don't quote me, but I believe he said he hated his father because his father was never there, and his father tried to reach out to him, years before then, and he didn't accept his father. So, he haven't heard from his father. I believe his father didn't come to his mother's funeral. So I told him, I said, man, you should call your father. Because at this point now, you reject him so much, he's afraid now, and he don't want to get rejected again. So you should call your father and try to mend whatever relationship he's trying to have with you. Because both of y'all grown now. You can't get that time back, as I keep saying. You just need to move on from here. And to this day on, to this point right now, him and his father have a great relationship because he did call his father. And his father, he said, I can almost remember the conversation. Just like it happened yesterday with me and him. He said his father was crying on the phone when he called his father, because his father been longing for this for years.
Regardless of if they're going to accept you or not, you go and get whatever it is off your heart, and if they accept it or not, you done did your job.
For the last 15 years, I've been working with the concepts of fatherlessness and connecting the generations. In my travels around the world, I've noticed that throughout many nations, families are disintegrating. In other words, they're losing their cohesion, they're losing their wholeness. And the result is young people being raised by single parents, in some cases no parents. Now, grandfathers and grandmothers and foster parents and many others are stepping up to try to fill the gap. But it's like the dam is broken, and we really need a radical return to fathering, for parenting, mothering, and so on.
One of the most devastating things that I've ever gone to, my sisters and I went to do a program at the juvenile detention center in Flint. And these boys are like 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, and a good portion of them African American boys. I have never seen a place where I had to hold myself together from crying, because these boys, I tell you, fatherless boys in this place. And so, we know the problem, and I don't know why we can't get people in the community, our men, to step up. Personally, I've done all that I can to try to save boys. For the last 7 years, my sister and I have run a summer program. And our idea was that an idol of mine is the Devil's Workshop. And so we have children in our program. I tell you, last year I wanted to walk out of my program. The people that I had the problems with were my boys in particular. These are boys, I'm talking about 5, 6, 7. I have never seen children so angry in all of my life. And so when I look at these children and what's happening, it is each one of them does not have a father in their home. And so when they come to me, they're angry with me, saying to me, do I have to do what a man that's telling me that is not my father? I said, why don't you make life easy for your mom and try to cooperate with your stepfather? I don't think it's the stepfather, but we have to try to do something with the big brothers, big sisters. These boys need a mentor. Me as a woman trying to do everything I could, it wasn't enough. They needed that man in my life. I wish I could have afforded to pay a man to come and work with me. I finally did have one who came in. They just gravitated to him. And so we can see that the positive impact that a male person has in these boys' life, they're looking for that, and they're crying out for it, and they're angry when they don't get it. So we in the community have to do something to help our boys find that wraparound to help them be successful in life.
When there's no fathers, probably the best example I can give comes really from nature. And over in Kenya some years ago, there was a culling process that took place with elephant herds, and all of the big bulls were removed for the herds, and so you had the mothers and you had these teenage elephants, if you will. And what was discovered was fascinating, because what we found was the teenage elephants went crazy. They were tearing up villages, they were killing other animals, they were just totally out of control. And the authorities didn't really know what to do, and somebody came up with a bright idea, and he said, why don't we go to another area of Africa and return some mature bulls into this herd. They did that, put just a couple of mature bulls back in there, and it was amazing that their presence caused those teenage bulls, if you will, to straighten up. And what I see happening in our society today is young people seeking out their own level of performance, their own level of what's right and what's wrong, creating their own system of values as opposed to receiving it from their fathers. And it is horrendous. It is an absolute nightmare, because when you have no values, when you have a culture where anything goes, anything usually means destructive, negative behaviors.
We ask during the reception and guidance, when a prisoner comes into reception and guidance, we ask his family history. More often than not, there is no father listed. Or if he is listed, it's a name, address unknown, relationship none, knows nothing about the father. The father basically was a sperm donor, for lack of a better term. And he had nothing to do with the young man's life.
One of the things that I think that plagues almost every child who does not have a father, we can talk about specifically boys, is poor moderation of emotion. Just don't know how to moderate emotion. One thing that you notice is they're very afraid of anger. It's interesting. Out of all the emotions, they're afraid of anger because they're afraid of what can be done with it. And that's just with absent fathers. God forbid the father who is now absent had a history of abuse. And so if you throw that into there, they don't want to be their dad. But from a clinical perspective, what goes unresolved will always be unresolved. And you will accidentally flow into that very thing that you're avoiding because your brain is subconsciously trying to master it. Let's say dad was not there. He's not there now, but the reason he's not there because of his violence or his aggression. They say over 50% of men who have been exposed to domestic violence have a tendency towards aggression because they don't want to be the victim. The girls it's just amazing. And I don't know if it's how God kind of created us, it's kind of nurturing, and men is just naturally aggressive. God did create men to be naturally aggressive, but it's a protective feature. It's not really meant to be bad, but anything that isn't directed becomes misdirected, right? And so my boys become aggressive, not purposely, but they spiritually and naturally identify with who they're supposed to identify with, which is dad. And my girls become victims and very passive. I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the effects of women and women who have daddy issues related to a neglectful, an absent, or an abusive dad. Any way you look at it, if dad falls out of the road that God has predestined him to be in, if it's off, it's off. And clinically, you see it in depression. God forbid dad is sexually abusive and it's off. That creates a whole host of issues. But what generally happens is women become victims. Victims in multiple facets. They become victimized in relationships. They become victimized in their workplaces. They become victimized in their own thoughts. It creates barriers for them feeling like they can do things. They become victims to life. Because when you experience something in life, it doesn't stay isolated. We generalize it to the world. For a great example, depression is vicious because depression is about I feel hopeless, I feel helpless, life looks hopeless, life looks helpless, and my future is. And so if you were to look at a person who has experienced a victimization because they've been a fatherless daughter, they feel like a victim. They feel like a victim in their relationships, and they feel like the world victimizes them. Does that make sense? It becomes like this generalized, holistic look at how they perceive themselves in relationships, in relation to the world. And it's sad because God created the institution of family being mother and father, because he recognized that our milestone years, our developmental years, become concrete. And everything after that becomes work. I almost want to say something, but I'm not because we were on camera. It becomes a heck of a workout for people who love you and for yourselves. And always remember, the person that you're struggling with that may have daddy issues, it's harder to be them than to be with them. And so things that are unresolved go unresolved. And the funny thing is some people don't recognize what's going on with them. And I always tell my clients, we don't do anything for a reason. When we're in session as a clinical social worker, you listen to what your clients say, but you look beyond that and you look at the root issues that are affecting the branches, right? We can cut our branches all day, but if I don't deal with what's going on in your soul, the root issues of your soul, we'll just be doing therapy on whatever new relationship it is, because it'll repeat itself, because it's in you. And sometimes we don't see us until it's reflected in a relationship. Relationships become like mirrors. And so girls become very hungry, and they normally will become victimized or exploited in life if they don't recognize the issue. It doesn't mean you can't be healthy if you've had an absent, abusive, present but neglectful dad. It means you'll have to recognize that so you can manage it. Personality becomes concrete. You may always be sensitive about daddy issues. You may always have a daddy issue, but it doesn't have to color your life.
But luckily for me, I was able to get hooked up and connected with some friends, some older people in my life who put their arm around me, and men specifically, and kind of showed me the right direction and the way that I should be heading, and the kind of person that I probably should be. The defining moment for Jeremy Smith was really when I came to the realization that there was no physical man, there was no physical person that was going to, at that point in my life, fill the hurt and the gap that I had. And I came to the realization, and I found Jesus at that point, and he became my daddy, my Abba daddy. And from that point on, I didn't look necessarily to a physical man. I looked to my perfect example, which is my daddy Jesus. I believe that being fatherless made me a better father today for my 5 children, because I experienced those things. It was more real. I experienced all those issues in life, and I figured out a way, with help of others and the help of God, to deal with those things, and knowing what I didn't have, stepping back and going, I didn't have this, I didn't have that, so I want to be everything that I didn't have for my children.
You see, my father, my grandfather, my great-grandfather, they didn't respond correctly. They didn't come with the mindset of, you know what, someone's got to stop this thing. Someone's got to rescue the next generation. I've made a promise that I've got to keep, man. I've made a promise that I've got to keep. As a result of the things I've been through, it's amazing. I would never think the little boy who was terrified, who was afraid, I would never think that kid would grow up to be who I am today. One of my biggest fears was that I would grow up and I would be next. I would be the next in line to become the man that the men in my family were. I was afraid of marriage because I was afraid of what if I become what they were. I was afraid of becoming a father because I was afraid of what if I become what they were. I was afraid of becoming a man because I was afraid of what if I become what they were, what if I become this monster. And the most amazing thing happened. I grew up and it was all right. I grew up and it was all right. If I could write a letter back to the younger me, I would tell the younger me simply this, especially the 18-year-old me, because at 18 I was ready to take my life because I was so afraid of what I was going to become. I would tell the 18-year-old me, it's okay. You're a fighter. And no matter what it looks like now, no matter how dark it looks right now, someday you're gonna grow up and you're gonna become the man you dream of becoming. You're going to grow up and you're going to be a better man than your father. You're going to grow up. You're going to change the legacy of your family. And not only are you going to change the legacy of your family, young Brian Pruitt, you are going to change history, because you are going to grow up and begin to fight for the fatherless. You're going to take the pain that you had and you're going to use it to begin to bring healing to the nations.
Sorry for not loving you unconditionally.
We ask for your forgiveness.
Sorry for never telling you who you are.
I'm sorry for not attending the events that were most important to you.
We're sorry for making you feel as if you weren't important.
We're sorry for not being what you needed us to be.
I'm sorry for what I didn't say that hurt you.
Sorry for speaking when you needed us to be silent.
Sorry for never giving you an identity.
I'm sorry for not being there as a father for you, dying before your time, not being able to teach you things and show you things and being an example for you. I'm sorry. Forgive me.
We're sorry for what we said that hurt you.
We're sorry for placing other things before you.